The City of London is in the dock. A series of scandals, from the rigging of interest rates to alleged aiding of money laundering, has battered the reputation of Europe's leading financial centre and perhaps inevitably fueled calls for more regulation. Is London heading for a fall? Hello and welcome back to Analysis Review. With me here to discuss the state of the City of London in the wake of a bruising few months are Andrew Hill, FT Associate Editor, and Martin Arnold, Deputy Companies Editor. Welcome to you both. Andrew, how much, is this to do with London, or is this just germane to the very complex business of finance?
I think the London loophole is something that people were worried about, or should have been worried about earlier in the process, probably well before the crisis, when it was being vaunted as a great thing, the light touch regulation and the elements that were allowing the City of London to grow. I think some of these things obviously relate to the world of international banking, particularly international investment banking, some of the risks that were taken that were too great, and they just happen to have fallen through the London operations of international banks. The JP Morgan Chase example is one of them. I think that's a problem for the banking sector as a whole. City of London happens to be one of the world's, possibly the world's preeminent banking centre, therefore it has taken in quite a lot of that flack.
But how much, there is some finger pointing going on. You both use this phrase, the London loophole. That comes from a US regulator, and there has been some quite marked comment coming out of the US pointing the finger at London. Just quickly, Andrew, you've worked in both places. How much is that just New York sort of getting one over, using the opportunity to get one over on London?
Yeah, I think that's part of it, and I think probably pre-crisis you found out that New York was worried about losing out because of the light touch regulation. So these things come and go. I think now London loophole has long since been closed, and there's a further worry that actually it's gone too far.
We'll come back to this point. Martin, sorry, you were going to come in.
Yeah, I was just going to make the point that actually the finger pointing goes all the way back to the financial crisis, the credit crisis that was, the first great scandal, where the US is saying that London is even to blame for that because AIG, the huge US insurer, that was the biggest bailout of the whole financial crisis. So, this finger pointing isn't just the last few months, that's my point, but there's going to be a lot of soul searching, a lot of regulatory clampdowns. Possibly there's Brussels is already sharpening its knife over pay, and eventually you're going to have politicians lining up to put heads on spikes. I think we're hearing.
Are we seeing, Andrew? Is this? He's mentioned the word politicians. Are we seeing? There's a lot of pressure on them to be seen to be doing something. Lord knows what, but. Are we seeing now this sort of a populist backlash that will...
Oh, absolutely, yes. Right. I think here, and of course London suffers this sort of double jeopardy of having both the financial services regulators here and the financial services regulators in Brussels putting the pressure on pay. That's a big concern, I think, for a lot of the banks here, that they're going to get hit twice over by this, what they claim to be over-regulation. But, frankly, I don't think they have a hugely strong argument, because as each week goes by, we're getting new evidence of things having gone wrong. It's very hard to argue then that regulation should be holding off.
So you're expecting more just to be clear, you're expecting there will be more regulation.
I think so. I think it's inevitable now, given the things that we've seen, that what could be described as a populist backlash is now really a quite hard political backlash against banks.
So what can the London banking sector do to come out to somehow come out in a good position, or the least worst position from all of this? There's even been suggestions, just to throw one at you, that they need to adopt a so-called sort of Japanese approach of, when there's scandals in that country, the executives stand up very publicly and bow in apology, that, one needs to see some contrition.
Well, the British banks have already been competing as to who can, find the best form of apology, because we've had Barclays, HSBC, they've been lining up, Lloyds has been lining up to apologise and to pay billions of pounds in compensation over the payment protection insurance scandal, which has cost the banks £8 billion already. It's a massive scandal.
I think the problem with that is, I've argued before for a sort of truth and reconciliation process, a bit like sort of South African system, where everybody fesses up to what they think they did wrong during the bad times. The problem with that is, first of all, you'd have to also get borrowers on the hook to say, actually, we shouldn't probably have taken that mortgage out, or we shouldn't have borrowed so much in the pre-crisis. And also it's gone far beyond that now. You're now in a situation, I think, where these apologies are falling on deaf ears. Yeah. And what should have been done probably in 2008 was a far greater get-together of banks saying we're going to abolish our bonuses for the next year or two, we're going to decide to take a more contrite view.
But hang on.
Difficult to do in retrospect.
Hang on, but I mean, if you look at Stephen Hester at RBS, and their results, by the way, are coming at the end of this week, and they are hugely implicated in the LIBOR fixing scandal,
As you said,
as well as having this IT failure that's cost their customers lots of money, and they're also in the PPI up to their eyeballs in that.
That's the insurance product.
Yeah. So Stephen Hester, the chief executive, has waived his bonus for the last 2 years. Do you think that's going to be enough to save him and save the bank from huge public opprobrium later this week?
I'm talking about what might have happened or could have happened around 2008. I'm not saying just in the UK either. I mean, I think part of the problem now is that actually the detail of regulation is being swept aside, so the discussion of the kind of intricacies of should you do this or that, it's giving way, as you've suggested, to this sort of more populist
which runs the risk of going too far, throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, both, thank you very much. I'm afraid there's so much more we could talk about, but we've run out of time. Andrew Hill, Martin Arnold, thank you both, and thank you for watching. To catch up on these and other subjects covered by our analysis team, please go to ft.com/analysis. Until the next time, goodbye.